Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Satsangat Ji, welcome to the Akal channel 843, and you're watching the Sikh Ethics program. Satsangat Ji, before we go into the main one-to-one program that we've recorded a couple of days earlier, new information about the Telford case came through to us. The program that you're going to see for 40-45 minutes is about Telford, but we're going to show you some new footage that came in yesterday, a live telephone call from a Telford victim, a victim who was 13 years old when she was used and abused by a number of men, and even up to now her abuse is carrying on. So listen to her conversation and then we'll go straight into the program. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I know the media has taken your story, the Mirror. Have they not tried to help you?
Not really, no.
So they've just taken a story and they've just exploited you then?
Yeah.
Okay, dear. Take care, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, stay safe, huh? Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye, darling. No problem.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Just get straight into it, mate. It's ridiculous.
And you're saying they're mostly Muslim men then?
Yeah, most of them, yeah. Well, at the time I was 13, they were in their 20s. It was like to me, like, abuse is normal, that it's normal to get abused, and it's not, but that's the way I feel.
Right. And how many other Punjabi Sikh girls you think are involved in this grooming aspect? Or have you come across many?
Really, about 15 to 20 Sikh girls.
Right, right. And they're all from the Telford area?
I don't know if any of them have come forward.
Okay.
It wasn't just happening to white girls, it was happening to us girls, to black girls. But I can't sleep or anything. Where as soon as it goes dark, I'm like wide awake. I'm just so scared that they come and do something to my house while I'm asleep, so I can't sleep. I haven't slept properly for days and days.
Okay. How long has it been now that you've been out of this abuse and you've broken free?
I'm still in it.
You're still in it? Okay. They're still abusing you?
Yeah. Basically, I was made to marry one of the Pakistanis who's from Pakistan. And I married him, and I got made to let him live in my house. And while he was living in my house, he raped me 4 times.
Is it all right for me to make this appeal by saying that I'm making the appeal on the behalf of the 13-year-old girl that gave her story to the Mirror? Would that be all right?
Yeah.
That will be all right for you?
Yeah.
So you're giving me that consent?
Yes, of course.
And all these other girls, how did you come across other girls that you knew they were doing it? Were they sort of taking you to different houses and abusing you?
We just got to know all the other different girls. There was quite a lot of us. I've got a list, a book, and in my book there's near enough 100 girls.
Right.
Just for the 20 years, just over the 20 years that it's been happening with me. And then the girls, there's about 80 different girls that no one even knows about.
Right.
I've got about I've got about 30 stories of different things that's happened to me and things that I've witnessed happening to other girls, and it's been really, really hard.
Okay, not to worry. Look, you've made the call, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. And I'm gonna get on it right away. So I'm gonna put a video out right away, because if it was just you, then it wouldn't be a problem housing you, just you on your own. But as there is 4 of yous, we'll have to make this appeal and see if somebody can make their property available or something like that. All right. If the worst comes,
Uncle, I don't have any money. I don't have any money to pay any deposits or anything. I don't even have money to get a taxi.
yeah,
Like, I've got nothing.
and everything like that, and any sign of any sort of problems, just ring the police straight away. Okay.
But even them, they don't even understand how much of a danger I'm in. You know, I've begged them to move me out of here and to give me protection. And all they've done is put a gazetteer on my address. And in my street where I live, there's men that's been abusing girls. And that's where, in my street where I live now. Like, it doesn't matter. Anywhere I go in Telford, I'm not getting away because they're everywhere.
I know the media's taken your story, the Mirror. Have they not tried to help you?
Not really, no.
So they've just taken a story and they've just exploited you then?
Yeah.
So how did they know about your
They
story?
haven't put my name.
They haven't put your name there?
They come and see me. No, they come and see me, they did.
So they came down to your house, took your story, printed it in the paper, and they've not been in contact with you since?
No.
Okay.
To me, it feels like because I'm brown, that they don't want to help me.
So they're just looking for the white girl story, not the brown girl story.
Yeah, they're not looking for our stories. Like, they even knew that I was abused by 2 white men up until the age of 13, and they didn't even put that in there. All they've done is leave that out and then started blaming all the Muslims when it's not just the Muslim men that are doing it.
Okay, so they just focused on the Muslim issue.
Yeah.
So, but you've been abused by white men and also Muslim men.
Asian men. I'm having a breakdown now. I had to have mental health out the other day because I was going to take an overdose.
But the Mirror didn't give you any other offers, or it's not.
No, nothing to help me get away from here.
Okay.
I'm that desperate. I even said to them that if they paid me, I'd go public. Literally, because I thought if they paid me, I could use that money and I could get out of here and start a new life for me and the kids. But they didn't. They just don't care. No one does.
Yeah, this is the way of the world. People exploit. Okay, that was the question. I'll talk to you as soon as I get any response. I'm going to put a video out, and obviously I'm not going to mention your name, but I am going to say it's the girl, the story of the 13-year-old girl. Okay?
Hi, I'm Jack Cubitt. I'm here today presenting Sikh Ethics on the Akal channel, and we're here with Mohan Singh of the SAS, and we're talking about grooming gangs. So recently, obviously, we've heard about the Telford grooming gang case. Why are we hearing so much about grooming gangs? How prevalent is it in the UK?
Well, you know, like we said in that little video that we made, Telford is not the only town. This is happening on an industrial scale. The problem is when you have news like this, it just blows out, and then 3-4 days later, everybody sort of forgets about it. But you've Rotherham, Rochdale, There's currently a trial happening in Bradford regarding a 13-year-old girl, and there's probably about 5 or 6 people up on there. There's an Oxford trial that's just finished, and another Oxford trial that's going to be underway very soon. You had the Newcastle group. You've got a case going on in Leeds, which involves about 27 different perpetrators, and it all has the same formula that they are using. So Telford's not the only, and I'm surprised why they actually brought that up, because the grooming gang was jailed about 5 years ago for 22 years. I think the leader of the group, I think he was called Mubarak Ali, who was sentenced to 22 years. But last July, he was going to be paroled in November. It's likely that he's going to be out. Under 5 years, he's going to be out back on the road. And you know, there's no deterrent for these people. You know, if the courts are serving sentences of 20 years or 15 years, they're not actually staying there for 15, 20 odd years. They're out in 2 and 3.
And good behaviour.
And good behaviour. So the system is failing us on big time. And it's the system that's failed, and that's why in every single town across the UK, on an industrial scale, young children have been raped. And you know, we use this term grooming gangs. These are not grooming gangs, these are rape gangs. If we want to really be 100% honest and push this PC to one side, these are rape gangs, and these people are going out and seeking children with vulnerabilities. And you know, in this day and age, there are a lot of kids out there with vulnerabilities, and these kids are exploited, used and abused, not just once or twice, but we've come across cases where kids have to sleep, 11, 12-year-old kids have to sleep with 5, 10 people a night. And it's quite scary what's happening in a modern society, that we find it hard with all our resources that we have, that we can't put a stop to it.
So you said it's happening on an industrial scale. Do you feel if the books were completely opened fully, that we'd be hearing about this in basically every town and city across the country?
100%.
So do you feel it's a problem that's too big for the government to even handle then? I think that's why they're so sort of, not hands off, but they're just so useless at dealing with it.
I think they've let this problem mushroom and mushroom, and it's grown. It is actually big. They have made changes. They have made slight changes, and you know, some of the effects, some of the things they have put in hasn't affected the whole thing the way we want it to, but there is movement in the right way. But when policemen, when people in authority, counsel people, when you got, you know, reports after reports, girls reporting, and these girls weren't taken seriously, and in the Telford case, some of the girls weren't even listened to, and you're going to the force that's going to protect you, but they don't want to know you, because, I mean, according to the Rotherham, they actually, some of the policemen thought these were the scum of the land. They put themselves in trouble. Why should we be throwing resources at it? So, is 1,000 girls an equation of 70 million really going to affect the government? And the answer is no, because they're classed as nobodies. And that is the thing that hurts. And you know, and if you look at it, there's also I don't want to go into politics or anything like that. But if you look at all the inner city areas where these are happening in different cities, these are all Labour-run councils.
Well, the Labour Party funded the paedophile information exchange in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
That was publicly funded.
And you know, I remember Jack Straw. after I think he lost the election and he wasn't an MP anymore, or he might have been an MP, but he wasn't the Home Secretary. He made the speech of easy meat. When information was going to them, and remember Labour was in power for a good 13, 14 years, and information was going in and nobody made a speech about it. But when they don't have the seat, they make speeches, easy meat. And my beef with them is always, when you're in power to do something, that's when you should be doing it, not when you don't have the power. And, Newcastle is a prime example. When somebody wants to speak the truth, somebody wants to call a spade. You had an MP, Sarah Chapman, she was sitting on some board within the Labour Party.
She was in the shadow cabinet.
Shadow cabinet. Now, as soon as she said what was blatantly true, 110% true, she said it was Pakistani heritage gangs. She was made to resign from her post and apologize. And every single MP of Pakistani origin was on her back.
But that seems to be the issue, isn't it? Like, the more power we get in today's society, the less influence we seem to be able to have. Like, if you're high up in government or whatever, your job is primarily to keep the status quo. So you're not going to want to speak up about grooming gangs and who's doing it, what ethnicity or religious background they're from, because you don't want to ruffle the feathers. And also it seems to be that there's an issue that we're talking about books being truly open. If the books were truly opened, you'd see this has gone up the whole way through the country. It's transcended gender, class, religion and race, and you'll have even high up people in the elite who've been involved.
That's right.
So it seems like they want to protect themselves as well.
Well, the
in
Westminster
this.
scandal, where boys were taken into parties and raped and abused, and I think one or two of them actually committed suicide, and that's where all the cases. But after 2 years of investigation, it's just closed down. So, if truly somebody's in power and somebody can grab the bull by the horns and take the lid of it, you are going to find something so nasty that's happening across the length and breadth of the UK, and it's going to be just unbelievable. In a modern society, behind closed doors, there is utter filth going on. It's utter filth.
Like, this is a one as well. There's an American billionaire, I believe he's still in prison now. We may not be able to air this, but I'll say it anyway. Jeffrey Epstein, he flew people out on his private jet to some holiday islands he had or whatever, sort of near America. And Bill Clinton reportedly flew on this jet many times. And also the Queen's son flew on it. I'll look it up in a second, find out which name it is. It's either Richard or Andrew. I believe it's Andrew. But this was ready to go to court. Yeah, it's Prince Andrew, Duke of York.
Yeah.
So this was ready to go to court a few years ago, I believe around 2014, 2015. BBC, Panorama were ready to do a documentary documenting this, and it all just went silent. And there was a super injunction put on it for about 50 years.
Well, there you are. The powers above, they are silencing the voice. And it doesn't give a person who's a victim to have any confidence within
the justice system if it's innately corrupt.
If it's that much corrupt. So why would a young, what hope is there for a young 13, 14, 12-year-old girl who's been frightened to death? She has got nowhere to go, and she would have to suffer the abuse for years and years until her sell-by date, until they don't need her anymore. They'll chuck you out. And I've seen in many cases where parents have tried to do something, it's the parents that get blamed for it. The whole system needs an overhaul change. And I've said it many times, people who've been abused need to be sitting on them boards where decisions are being made. And you're getting their experience up there
What we've got people making decisions on our behalf are young people who've just come out of universities, working in the civil services and giving it to their MPs and bang, nothing's happened. You know, it looks all rosy and good that we're doing A, B and C. When did Rotherham come out? 2014. How many changes have been made? I mean, look at the sentencing. We're going to go tough on sentencing. We're going to go tough on this. That's a lot of crap. Because, you know, if you're sending somebody down for 22 years, what the hell is he doing coming back out after 5 years? Even for good behaviour. What about the girls that he abused? Now, in that particular town in Telford, there's up to 1,000 young people that have been abused. How many people did he abuse? How many people did he damage? So for good behaviour, he's back out at 5?
But it seems that society, and I'm not saying this shouldn't happen, but it seems that society will need such a great overhaul that why would the powers that be want to get involved in that? Because they don't want to lose their power.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Now, you know, 99% of the population, the UK, are more like sheep now. They've desensitized you. They're controlling you, and you just go with the flow. It's in the media. It'll be there for 3-4 days. Every politician will say the right word. Every politician will say the right word. Once it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
It's just another thing on the media cycle.
Another thing on
it's
the
like,
media cycle.
you know, the Jenners having a baby or something. It's just, when it's popular, sure, they'll talk about it. But that's it.
But if you look at the heinous crimes committed against these kids, these perpetrators don't need a 5, 10, 20. It should really be that they're in for life and the key's thrown away and you suffer the consequences because you've destroyed somebody's life. Not just one person. It's not one-on-one here. These are groups of gangs of people, uncles, nephews, friends, raping and abusing young people in their hundreds. And what about all their lives? What about the lives that are destroyed there? I will say, to get this system right, if any policeman, if any council worker was not to do their job properly, they should be behind bars as the perpetrators, because they're aiding and abetting them because they're not doing their job properly. You're having taxpayers' money to do your job. You don't judge if somebody is bad or good. You judge them on merit. You know, you're there to help someone. And if you're not helping, how many policemen have gone? How many council workers have who have failed these people gone to prison? How many council workers or policemen have lost their jobs who have failed these people? None. What does that say for the system?
Before we go into talking about the counselling system and all of that, you mentioned the formula used by grooming gangs. So what is the formula? Well,
I've come across a formula with the Sikh Awareness Society, and this formula is prevalent throughout Europe. It's the lover boy model. Now, you know, every human being needs that attention, that affection, that appreciation. We call it the 3 A's LERS. When we're teaching kids and parents, we focus on these 3 things. Now, if one of them's missing, you know, you're vulnerable. And if somebody's paying you attention, you feel special. So if they'll buy you drinks, they'll buy you gifts, they'll give you what you ain't got. They'll spend time on you. If your parents are not spending time, they'll be spending time on you. And remember, some of these kids are from broken homes. So where families are dysfunctional families, we call them, where there might be, alcohol abuse going on in the families, where there might be physical abuse going on in the family. So these are very dysfunctional families. I'm not saying all of them are from dysfunctional families. There's a good 50% from homes, foster caring, social care homes. I've just lost my chain of thought, but it's the formula, it's the giving gifts, it's making them feel special. And 13, 14, it's the culture the Western culture is of dating, and then you think that my boyfriend is going to look after me, he's providing me with things, he's giving me everything, and then they sexualize it. Then they say, you know, show us how much you love us, we're providing all this, and bang, that's when they sexualize it, and that's when you're caught in the web, and you know, you've got nowhere to go because people have gone to the police and nothing has happened. And these groomers are laughing in their face. And this, I've come across perpetrators who say, well, you've been to the police 3-4 times, nobody's protected you, you're not going to be protected. And that person then has nowhere to go. Can you imagine a young girl, she was at the Old Bailey, and I think this was the Oxford trial, you know, where she was 11 years old, and she's bent over, and her clothes have been taken off, so she's naked, and they get a pin out of her hair, and they mould it into an M for Mohammed Kurra, who was the leader of the gang in Oxford. They make that pin red hot, and then they brand you with that.
Like a cow.
Like a cow, like you're our property. You know, and this is happening in a very leafy green area of Oxford. You wouldn't imagine it. So can you imagine just where Newcastle is, where Oxford is, where Bristol is, where, you know, Bradford is, Telford in Shropshire. It's happening every town. And remember, 87% of rape never gets reported, or sexual abuse never gets reported. So the figures they are coming with, is that really true? No, because 87% or 85% are not never even reporting it. And also, they, you know, papers time after time after time, they're using the Asian grooming gangs. They're using that term when they very well know it's not Asians. Now,
is that through fear of being seen as racist, though?
Yeah, but my sort of, if papers can use 10 years ago, 20 years, maybe 25 years ago, if papers, you know, can put in, and media, electronic media, TV and papers can say when English fans were rioting in Europe, they weren't called European hooligans. They were called English hooligans. So if they can make a difference from your nationality and your ethnic groups there, why couldn't they say who these perpetrators are?
I think it's because of the modern culture of white guilt, though. You know, where it's like white people are made to feel bad because of things that have happened before, and anything that could be in any way interpreted as racist, I'm not condoning it.
It's not racism. It's not racism when you're stating the fact.
But that's how society seems to see it. It's like with Sarah Champion or whatever. She gets called a racist for whatever. Same with your organisation. You know, you've had people say you're racist or you're focusing on the wrong thing, even though you say, I think it's something like 87% of the cases you deal with.
Well, you know, I came across documents of West Midlands Police. They were sitting on this information for the last 40 years. And I was astounded when how they sort of mark this crime or noted the crime. The name of the perpetrator there was no name. So it's blanked out. They put a black strip across it. Age of the perpetrator is gone. Ethnic group is gone. And one column, rape or sexual assault. Now they were saying 87% of the perpetrators were Asians. Right? But when you look at the names of the perpetrators, we actually know who they belong to, or which religion they belong to, or which ethnic group they belong to. We know that. So why hide it? All I'm saying is that if it becomes visible to UK who's actually doing it, then we can put the resources in to tackle it. It's not racism, it's just protecting kids It could be my daughter, your daughter, somebody else. Everybody's daughter is a daughter, and you know, it's.
But what's it going to take? Is it going to take a prime minister's son being abused, or someone in the royal family being abused? Like what is it going to take? Because we live in quite a rigid, draconian society.
What it will take, I personally believe, is the ordinary man wakes up at the length and breadth of the UK. Now, you know, it might seem, you know, when we use the word Pakistani or Muslim, because we're using the word Muslim, I'm not saying that all Muslims are doing it. I'll be 100% there straight away. But there is a high proportion.
So you can't ignore it.
So you can't ignore it. So there's Afghanis, there's Pakistanis, there's Bangladeshis, there's Kurdish, there's Iranians, there's, you know, so you're getting a good mix there. Mm-hmm. So why is it happening? We're not tarnishing a religion. We're saying that something within the upbringing or the culture or somewhere something is going wrong because there's a very high proportion. We're not saying everyone does it, but we're saying there's a high percentage. Now, when you look at the names of, if you go back and do your research from 2008, 2009, all the way to current times here, 2018, you look at all the cases and you look at all the perpetrators. The names all match. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not saying there's not white pedos out there. Mm. There are white pedos out there. We live in a predominantly white country. I believe 73% of the population is white. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get more crime. 1-to-1, there are definitely more pedos. You know, there's Jimmy Saviles of the world, and you know, it's a very nasty sort of network these people have. But these 1-to-1 pedos obviously are more white people. Mm. But when you come to group related, when you come to type 2 is group related. We're groups of people, and they're not just friends, they're uncles, they're nephews. You just look at the relationships between all these cases, and they know fathers and sons are doing that. It's like running businesses, selling these white girls, selling girls.
Yeah, with your organisation, obviously you deal with CSA, like child sexual abuse and exploitation. What do you guys do to combat it? Like, what are your tactics?
Well, it's a three-pronged attack, really. And the first one is to raise awareness, because I believe awareness to any problem is the key. And there's many quotes in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji that our Guru says one must be aware of the environment one lives so that one can spot the dangers. That's the first thing we do. That's the front line. We have tried to reach out to all the gurdwaras in the UK, and not just the gurdwaras in the UK. We work in Canada, America, Europe. We will do it wherever we're asked. So that's the awareness side. And then we've put in the education side. So we're educating communities, we're educating parents, we're also educating young people. And our education courses start from 4 years old, from 4 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 to 10 to 13, 13 to 16, and university, and of course the parental courses that we're running, and it's currently running in 5 centres across the UK. That's the awareness, that's the education. But if you do find a child that's fallen through the net, or it has been abused, and then we provide all the counselling services that child needs. So we do have professional people on board, people who are NLP practitioners, masters in their game, life coaches, whatever counselling we think that the person needs, we will tap into it, because we have a lot of volunteers who are professionals in their fields, from GPs to counsellors to teachers. Wherever we think that the child can get that help, then we give them the one-to-one. And our system is working. Why? Because once a child makes a connection with the counselor, that counselor is not removed after 8 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 weeks, and within the system that we have. Now, you might have a child in the system, goes to a counselor. That counselor might only see him 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards it's moved to another counsellor,
yeah,
and another one. So the child has to rebuild and build that trust. Remember, when you've been abused, that trust factor is a massive game changer.
yeah.
And we will have, if a counsellor and that child is working, they might be working for 2-3 years together.
It's like what we said in the focus panel with the trauma therapist Brian Miner. You know, he was saying you can't tick box this. If you got 5 kids, even if they were abused in the exact same way at the same time by the same person, they'd all have different symptoms.
Sure.
So you can't tick box it like if you did your cruciate ligament or something. There'd be a set path to deal with that.
Sure.
Within reason. But we can't do that with this. But the NHS and the British, I guess, medical system seems to think it can be tick boxed. And
well, a lot of this is, the whole system is like that. The education system is like that. Every department in the UK is like that, where it's like you got to achieve this, you got to achieve this. It doesn't matter what service you're giving them, as long as that box is ticked. That's all they want to see.
mm-hmm.
And why do you think the NHS is struggling? Well, there's a lot of organisations that are struggling because it is just about tick boxing. And when you have a damaged child, and we've seen children who are damaged beyond sort of repair, really, to give them back some normality in life, some hope. It's not just an 8-week thing. It can take years, and it's hard work with these kids, but that's what the SAS does. It'll provide you with a person that person can be there not just for 8 weeks, but it can be there for many years to come. And whenever you need a chat with that person is available.
I saw a thing probably a couple of months ago. I don't know the exact figure, but I believe it was something like between 2016 and 17, the Tory party cut funding for mental health by 350 million. We'll chuck it up on the screen if I manage to find it. But yeah, what does that say about our country when so many people go through mental health issues and it's been defunded?
Well, you know what, look, a lot of the mental health problems have probably originated from a very young age. Now, I know we're sitting here in Canada, and we're only speaking about Telford because of what's taken place and it's been in the papers. But yesterday I was at a women's gala day, an empowerment for women, and a lot of women who honoured yesterday for, there were survivors of cancer and mental health and stuff like that. And I was talking to one woman yesterday afterwards when she had she went on stage, she spoke for a good 10 minutes, she came down, and then at the end of the function I was talking to her. And within 2 minutes, she was telling me, and she never told anyone because she knew who I was. She says, me and my 2 sisters were abused by a family friend. And she never told anyone. The organisation she works for, the organisation that honoured her yesterday, even they don't know.
But I said that to you, didn't I, as well, when we were seeing these sort of brief kind of cut out things like testimonies of, young women saying, oh, I went through depression, I went through this as a child, but they weren't saying why.
Yeah.
And, from what I understand, there's very much cause and effect with all that. You don't just become depressed for no reason, you know.
So, cutting back, obviously will have its effects on the whole of the society. So whatever they're cutting back, you're not going to really have the work done properly, because if one person is trying to do 10 people's jobs, he's not going to be efficient, is he? And that is a major problem. But even with this one, I've always said that the law needs to change. The law needs to change across the UK, where if, at the moment, if a person who is abused goes to the police, then it will be taken. But the person who's been abused is so too scared, or it thinks it's in love with someone, doesn't understand that it's being groomed, so it's not going to go to the police and say, I've been groomed, because the grooming process is so subtle. And I've always advocated that we should be, any third party, any foster care or any parent or any caregiver who sees signs where a child is abused, if they report it to the police, they should take the advice of that third party and at least examine what's happening. And at the moment, they're not. In Birmingham a couple of years ago, this girl ran away from home 1,000 times. And then a super injunction was taken on, I think, about 10 guys who then couldn't talk to the girl, but not just her, they couldn't talk to anybody under 16, or they couldn't be alone with anybody. But they didn't have enough info on them to take them to court, but they just done that. So it was a good sign that at least a council is doing that. But how many councils are doing that? The Birmingham Council has failed thousands of children. Telford is nothing. Halfords just the tip of the iceberg.
So you feel as a society, the common man, you know, people like yourself and myself, we just need to get together and make noise.
I think every person who feels passionate about this, and it's not just about sitting behind a computer and making comments. That's not what you want. You don't want keyboard warriors here.
Yeah.
You want people out on the street.
Boots on the ground.
You want people talking about it. You want to walk in different towns. You want to. It's not against any faith or against any sort of ethnic group. It's against child sexual exploitation. And I believe that anybody who's religious to the core, whether you're Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, whatever, you'd want to be on that. Because these are the societies that you're living in, and your kids have been raised on the same streets and the same schools and everything. You know, what's going to happen if it happens to your kid?
But there are some people, and you know, they might even be watching this right now, who they think these are just isolated events. They think the Catholic Church's an isolated event, or Telford or whatever. They don't believe it's happening around them. What would you say to those people?
Well, I believe 1 in 4 children have been abused. Now, these again are reported cases. It's not, you know, it's
probably even more. Yeah.
It's probably even more. You can get, I would say that 1 million plus children have been abused. 1 million plus. And that is just a crazy amount. And remember, these kids are going to become adults. They're not going to be stable adults. So if you don't stem the problem here, you're going to have a problem further up.
So it's within the government's interest to actually tackle this, even if they're just thinking about it in terms of money, because that could mean less people on benefits or more people in better jobs.
I don't understand, you know, the PC culture. There's an organization called the Quilliam Foundation. Now, I know this report came out late last year or maybe early this year, I'm not quite sure. I think it was late last year. With all this grooming gang phenomena, they put their own study to it. And the 2 people that started the study from the Quilliam Foundation, They said they didn't want to find that link between the Pakistanis Muslim link, but to their astonishment, they found a link. So what people were saying was actually true. So if Muslims can look within, like the Quilliam Foundations, and say, this is it, why should somebody be called a racist or Islamophobia? It's government saying you can't say this. It's government you saying you can't do. It's Big Brother.
George Orwell,
It's you're silencing you know. You're silencing you, they're silencing the victim. The victim becomes a victim over and over and over again. And those people who want to do something about it, they are silent, they are vilified. And you know what, how much can an ordinary person take? But if everybody got together, you know, from every walk of life, then we can make a difference. Because they can't deal with masses. They can deal with groups of people, but they can't deal with masses.
Final message you'd like to give to people watching?
I'd just like to say that, you know, it's not just Telford. Just guys, wake up. You're going to keep hearing these stories over and over and over again. We keep putting our same comments. We put our disgust on our, you know, when we're writing comments. But a week, 2 weeks later, we've forgotten about it. All I'm saying is, just wake up, smell the coffee. It's happening in every single town. And unless we don't do anything about it, unless you don't do anything about it, nothing is going to be done. It's us that's got to pressurize the people sitting on their comfy seats. And if we don't do it, we can shout or write as much as on the computers and the comments. Nothing is going to happen. So be aware, be prepared, and stay safe.
Thank you.